Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Amirah Farahana Binti Hamdani, and I'm from Group H, which is country Indonesia Raya. Today, I would like to present to you about the introduction of Islamic financial system in Indonesia Raya. As everyone knows, Indonesia is a country with the world's highest Muslim community. Although Indonesia is a country with the world's highest Muslim community, Indonesia still plays a minor role in the global Islamic banking sector while hosting the world's largest Muslim population and creating a competitive developing market. But in these recent years, Islamic banks have expanded quite rapidly based on the article of measuring the sustainability performance of Islamic banking in Indonesia in year 2018. Indonesia's Islamic finance rank has risen steadily this year, but obstacles remain to the further growth of the Sharia economy. Okay, the establishments of Bank Muamalat Indonesia, which called SBMI, formed the Islamic Bank of Indonesia in year 1992. This establishment of Islamic banks in Indonesia is considered as late. This is because various problems have delayed the establishment of Islamic banks in Indonesia, but they still can manage it. Okay, the next is the Indonesia takes seriously to improve the Islamic finance industry. So far, one of achievement of Islamic finance in Indonesia Raya is Indonesia's ranking jumped from 10th in 2018 after Malaysia, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates in 6 measures to 4th. Despite the achievement, Indonesia Raya is still struggling to overcome the Sharia finance and Sharia economy challenges. Lastly, Islamic finance in Indonesia is expected to expand its independence in the future, so that it can stand independently and operating operation of its parent bank can be conducted properly and separately using concepts that are truly Sharia.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Aqilah Sadiqah. Islamic finance established in Indonesia in 1992 through the creation of Bank Muamalat Indonesia. The establishment of Islamic Bank in Indonesia is considered late when opposed to other Muslim majority countries such as Malaysia and Philippines. Due to delayed establishment, Islamic finance in Indonesia have been caused by a lack of support from Muslim community and government. Third, Sharia policy appeared in various sectors. An effective Islamic finance regulation would dramatically improve community economic growth. The production of embraced Islamic banking has reached an average asset growth. Fourth, strengthening Sharia policy. After introduction of Islamic banking system in Indonesia, there have been several advances in 2 decades of growth of national Sharia finance. So, according to the history of Islamic finance in Indonesia, Muslim skilled growth that are more practice-oriented are more looking for the establishment of Sharia-based bank. Third, Sharia policy appeared in various sectors. An effective Islamic finance regulation would dramatically improve community economic growth. The production of embraced Islamic banking has reached an average asset growth. Fourth, strengthening Sharia policy. After introduction of Islamic banking system in Indonesia, there have been several advances in 2 decades of growth of national Sharia finance. So, according to the history of Islamic finance in Indonesia, Muslim skilled growth that are more practice-oriented are more looking for the establishment of Sharia-based bank.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Next, I want to present about Islamic asset in Indonesia. What is asset? Asset is an intangible asset that is valuable from the contractual claim of what they represent, such as bank deposit, bonds, and stock. So that's why asset is very important for every country. It was because if their company have a good management of their asset, it will get more good in their profit or income. Next is Islamic asset situation in Indonesia. As we know, their economy was growth at 6% since 2008. Their banking asset was increasingly triple in a year. That what is happened between 2008 and 2012. According to the World Economic Forum, Indonesia was ranking on the top in 7 of 9 countries in 2015. Their country was get only 3.8% of their global share of Islamic financial banking asset in 2015. So it was a good improvement for Indonesia to manage their asset. According to the Jakarta Post in 2019, Indonesia was jumped 6 steps to 4th from 10th place in 2018 after Malaysia, Berahim, and United Arab Emirates. Indonesia was reached $86 billion in 2018 of their asset. It will give opportunity to increase their asset by promoting their halal product around the world. So overall of this, Indonesia country have a good potential for Islamic financial system growing of Islamic asset with halal product in that country.
While for institution, Islamic finance institution are the broad term for a finance institution functional in accordance with the Sharia. In order to be considered of Islamic finance institution, a board of Sharia composed and more than one scholar eligible to issue a fatwa or the Sharia complaints of a financial product must be created. The following are main institutions of Islamic finance in Indonesia. First, Bank Syariah Mandiri. Bank Syariah Mandiri was established as a starting operation in 1999. New policies were introduced to allow alternative techniques to be applied to banking, including Islamic Sharia. Second is Bank Muamalat Indonesia. Bank Muamalat Indonesia commenced in journey as the first Sharia bank in Indonesia on November 1992. Bank Muamalat Indonesia alternated into a better entity that achieved a long-term growth. Last but not least, Jaya Proteksi Takaful. Jaya Proteksi Takaful is an insurance company whose role is to manage public funds is in accordance with Sharia principle and regulation. The company has always avoided prohibition things such as qarar, maisir, and usury. So for overall, Islamic finance institutions are part of the modern world economy and subject to the same economic laws and any other investor in the global finance industry.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And hello everyone, my name is Azhan Hakimi bin Azhar. Today, I'm going to tell about the Islamic financial system in Indonesia. So, the subject that I will discuss is about the governance and also the prospect. Let me start with the governance. So, for the governance in Indonesia, just like other developing countries, in the start of good administration in Indonesia is considered as a burden, particularly to change the way of life of the organization in order to meet the principle of transparency and accountability. Indonesia has had National Committee on Governance, which distribute general rules for good corporate governance including business banking and Sharia. Governance of Islamic banking in Indonesia is emphatically affected by the Indonesian legal system is more influenced by the civil law system. Third important civil law system is the enactment a significant source. In conclusion, regulating setting governance and its application in the Islamic banking industry in Indonesia legitimately have forfeit the backing at Sharia and agilizing guidelines. Conceptually, Sharia governance is intended to guarantee consistent with Sharia.
Islamic banking can be defined as banking or a firm created for the Islamic society. So there are differences between Islamic and conventional banking. Islamic banking prohibits the use of riba in financial transactions, while conventional banking is free as long as it benefits the company. Islamic banking is for everyone, regardless of race and religions. Islamic banking in Indonesia was introduced in 1992 until now, and the first bank that known as BMI or Bank Muamalat Indonesia. Indonesia has shown favorable pretensions in the Islamic market, but in 2011 to 2012, Indonesia has ranked its country in 8th place in 9 Muslim majority countries. In that year, Indonesia market share is 20% lower than Malaysia and Pakistan. Due to the large Muslim populations in Indonesia, this makes it easier to distribute Islamic banking. There are several Sharia banks. There are one state called Aceh that requires all the residents to use Islamic banking. Logically, if one country produces a lot of Islamic or halal products, then it helps in developing and strengthening Islamic finance. This is evident when in 2017, in Indonesia, most people deposit their funds to Islamic banks with a percentage 12.2% from 11.4%.
Insurance in Islamic finance called as takaful. The other name is ta'amin and tadamun. There are two types of covenants in Sharia insurance in Indonesia. The first one is the deed of arbitration is all forms of contract made for commercial purposes. The second is the tabarru agreement is all forms of the covenant performed for the purpose of welfare and self-help. The contract of insurance is between the participant and the company consisting of the deed and or tabarru contract in which the deed is referred to as mudarabah, whereas the tabarru is a grant. In conclusion, takaful system by Indonesia is very similar to the system implemented by our country Malaysia. It is because as we know that Malaysia and Indonesia are using the same mazhab, which is mazhab Syafi'i.
Sukuk defines itself as a financial certificate that complies with Islamic law. It's said to be same as bond, but there is a difference. So in Indonesia, started in Sukuk in 2002, but published SBSN, which means the National Sharia Compliant Letter, or Sukuk, in 2008. This issuance of Sukuk in Indonesia is for the government's effort to make financial growth in Indonesia clean and Sharia compliant. This figure shows the increasing or demands of investors in their government. During this period, Indonesia has shown that the rate of Sukuk in their country is increasing. This shows that Sukuk is widely accepted by investors from bonds. So in 2018, Sukuk gives Indonesia success in infrastructure development. Indonesia has 15 railway projects, 101 road projects, and more. So there are 4 types of Sukuk: Ijara, Istisna, Mudarabah, and Musyarakah. This chart shows that Sukuk Ijara predicts the most among other Sukuk as it is the most important. Indonesia also have green Sukuk, where Sukuk green can be defined as a Sharia compliant investment in renewable energy. Investors are more interested in investing in Sukuk greens. It's about the environment. This is Indonesia's attempt to grow a country with a lower carbon consumption and withstand climate. The first productions of 1.25 billion green Sukuk made Indonesia the first Southeast Asian country to sell green Sukuk.
Based on data analysis and discussion for market in Indonesia, it has been concluded that the return of asset, capital adequacy ratio, and financing to deposit ratios have significant positive impact on Sharia banking for market share in Indonesia. The result of this study for market in Indonesia suggests that Islamic banking management needs to maintain financial performance and health, in particular improving return on assets, capital adequacy ratio, financing to deposit, in order to improve market share and reduce non-financing finance and ratio efficiency operational bank and the Financial Services Authority. And the selection of strategies are also appropriate to enhance the performance and health of Islamic banks. It is hoped to boost and growth of the Sharia banking market share in Indonesia.
Today I would like to present to you about Wakaf and Zakat. My name is Amirah Farahana and I will divide it into two parts, which is Wakaf, the first part, and the Zakat one is the second part. Okay, we start with the first part, which is Wakaf, in the sense that Zakat is mandatory and Wakaf is optional. Wakaf is different from Zakat. The word Wakaf does not appear in the Holy Quran, but the verses within it make explicit references to the essential importance of being generous and helping others unselfishly. Wakaf has been established in Indonesia by a state institution called Badan Wakaf Indonesia. Wakaf capacity in Indonesia is deemed enormous, but through looking at its growth to this day, Wakaf is the slow developing Islamic finance instrument compared to other instruments such as Zakat and Sadiqah. Although the capacity of Wakaf in Indonesia is very high, without properly organized Wakaf activity, the growth is still be considered to be persistent. Next part is Zakat in Indonesia Raya. Zakat is one of 5 pillars of Islam which Allah has made mandatory for every Muslim to follow. In Indonesia, with the largest Muslim community in the world, has a low zakat selection of 230 million from 262 million people. Seeing this reality, the practice of zakat in Indonesia is not practiced as directed by Islam. As an instrument of Islamic social welfare, zakat will also become a cause of improvement in the social and economic well-being of the Muslim community in Indonesia. This ensures that zakat is more likely to minimize poverty and encourage social well-being if zakat can be successfully organized. Also, the application of the Zakat Bank in the transition of the Zakat implementation can be a solution for the implementation of Zakat in Indonesia. The establishment of Zakat will become the development of the most advanced accounting mechanism that can be trusted in Zakat administration in Indonesia, ensuring the property is properly distributed from rich to the poor. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Next, we move to the prospects. For the prospect, there are 3 main prospects that have been planning by the government Indonesia for widen their Islamic financial system. One of the prospect is for local initiative in Indonesia. As we know, Indonesia is a country that has a large Muslim population and then status as a developing economy in Southeast Asia and recent growth in Islamic banking asset. Many trust in Indonesia is prepared to become a global player in Islamic finance. The next prospect is about Indonesian state-owned Islamic megabank. The megabank will be the result of combining the Islamic financial arms of 4 state-possessed banks, which is PT Bank Rakyat Indonesia, PT Bank Mandiri, PT Bank Negara Indonesia, and PT Bank Tabungan Negara. So, the next prospect is gonna be the government Indonesia, which is the government of Indonesia, is planning for the Islamic financial system in partnering with China, the Middle East country, and also Turkey. Indonesia has focused on the collaborating with other countries to expand its involvement in the global Islamic finance markets. Indonesia has started to lead the pack in adding to new multilateral organizations being established in Asian Pacific region and the Middle East country. I think that's all from me. Thank you very much.
So in conclusion, we must know that Indonesia is a country with the most Muslim population. Indonesia, mostly led of them, established a Islamic financial system in that country. So in that study, we can see how does the Islamic financial system in Indonesia, such as asset, government, suku, the market, wakaf, zakat, and others was happened and growing in that country. Overall of this, Indonesia have a good potential for this country to manage the Islamic finance system growing around the world. So it was mean that a good prospect was get better in improving the Islamic finance system in that country. This thing will give some alternative for Indonesia in order to make sure their Islamic finance system was growing better than before. So this country should have strategy for Islamic finance system to their community as well, especially Muslim people in that country. That's all from us. Thank you.